Hey guys, Ebontis here. Just wanted to give you a run through of the first mission in the division. This one is called Precinct Siege. Now, this one is on Brooklyn. You can pretty much only do it while you're on Brooklyn because I've yet to see a way to get back, but this is the one you do. Now, when the game started, there were some server issues, so Brooklyn was okay, but when you try to go to Manhattan, it wasn't. So people were replaying this one. So I got back in the game and I did start running this one on hard and then figured out that Manhattan was good to go, so went over there afterwards. But wanted to give you guys a run through of this mission. So, this one starts out right in front of where the E3 trailer was, the precinct police station that you're trying to get back into. Unfortunately, that I'll come to in a minute. But this is the E3 trailer, the precinct that you are walking into, trying to clear out the guys and things like that. So some of you may have seen this, some of you may have not. But that gate will open, you'll have enemies come out. Now I'm running this on hard, as I said, for more of a challenge as I was trying to kill some time. But most of the missions, if you're able to run them on hard, by yourself it's going to be difficult, and you're going to need some self-healing and things like that for sure, which makes this even more difficult because I don't have many of my abilities yet. But if you do have patience and some time, and or if you've got people with you, especially somebody with healing, you can share revives and things like that, then running the mission on hard will get you better rewards. Typically it will be a blue. At this level I don't actually think it was, but most of the missions, if you run them on hard, what you can do the first time through, when you just walk up to each mission and you are at that description screen, hold down the details button, pull it up, and change the difficulty. When you do that, you'll be running against more difficult enemies, so it will take you a little longer, but you'll get more experience, potentially more DZ, more currency, and also you'll get a chance at a better drop in the end. Usually it's going to be a guaranteed blue of some kind, which we all know, especially in these lower levels, blues are typically going to be something you're going to equip no matter what the stats are. So I would consider doing that on most of your missions if you can, just because the blue is going to be more rewarding and also more of a challenge. The AI is really challenging on this difficulty. Normal still, they play well, but just their health isn't quite the same. You'll notice the armor on the purple enemies, there's the white bars above them. Now that's how much armor they have. As you work on doing damage to them, you'll see those armor bars lower, like this guy over here on the right. He's got 2. So I'm putting some damage into him, and then as soon as his armor bars go down, you can start working on his health. Now their health is pretty normal to a red enemy. So once their health is down, they go down, or their armor, I should say. Once the armor is down, their health goes down fairly quickly. Now, the reason this is difficult because there are no healing abilities and things like that. And as you're running by yourself, all you have is medkits. So you have to depend on the medkits that you have, and hopefully you find more, which you tend to find a decent amount throughout a mission. Make sure you look for those red pouches, pickups, the stashes that are around the mission. A little extra searching if you're running on something like this will probably do you a little bit of good. Just an FYI also in the way the health works. I'll cover this for now. You can see my health is 2 out of the 3 bars. 2 of the orange ones are full, 1 is not. Once you go below one of those bars, once you take enough damage to drop below one of those segments, you cannot automatically regen back above that without either a healing ability or a medkit, which is why the medkits are extremely important early on. So if I'm completely full and I take just a little bit of damage, if I hide, I'll get my health back to full. But if I take a chunk of damage and I get, half my health gone, so I'm in the middle of that second bar, then I can only regen back up to 2/3 health. So just be aware of that. If you take a good chunk of damage, or if you're in a really low health situation, consider those medkits, but don't pop the medkit before you get that full regen, because typically it will be about 1.5 bars of health. And if you pop it when you're low before you get recharged, you'll only get the benefit of the 1.5 bars from where you're at. So if you're really low and you do that 1.5 bars, you may only get up into the second bar. But if you're at the full first bar and you use it, you potentially can get up into that third bar, and then your regen can carry you the rest of the way. So just consider that before you use that. Get into safe cover, hold it down tight for a minute, and then once you're in a really good position, then go ahead and use your medkit. So these guys here, once you come through the gate, are going to be kind of the thing separating you from getting inside the precinct. Again, you can see their health, watch them. They are actually pretty smart. I'm going to give the AI some props on this. If you have your cursor trained on them, they're actually fairly smart enough to know to not pop out. they'll work on, focusing on cover and try and pay attention to that. And if you're hiding, then they may, try and flank you. Things like that they handle extremely well. So far I'm pretty impressed. There are occasional glitches I'm sure everyone will notice. There's an enemy who's just standing there letting you shoot him if you're at a distance or something happens, but I'd say most of the time overall they handle the AI and stuff pretty well. So you can see my health dropped back down. I'm back into the middle of that second bar. Wait for it to get back up and just make sure I'm taking my time. Now, here's the type of enemy you want to watch out for. It's these melee guys. They will do this charging sound like, that's, whatever you want to think the sound is. It's pretty terrible coming from me. But they do this like running, like kind of crazy sound charge. And pay attention when you hear that. They may just be doing it from where they're starting out, so they could be farther away. But if they're running down the center, they're going to come towards you. And they're not going to stop till they get to you. Now, if you put a, damaging chunk of a sniper rifle into his head, it's going to stagger him for a second. But they're still going to keep charging. So make sure you watch and listen for those melee guys. The audio cues will help. But if those guys come up behind you and get a full swing at you, you're going to lose at least a chunk of health, probably a full bar, if not more, depending on what they're using for a melee weapon. Sometimes there's baseball bats, sometimes there's axes with riot shields and things like that. But we'll get to that later. But for now, you can see if you're running through cover, if you're behind cover and you point your cursor at a different cover, you can just hold your cover button and then you'll run straight to it just like this. So if you just... Once you have the cover pointed at that you want, press and hold that cover button again, and then you will run straight towards it. As you can see here, also, just make sure you guys learn the weapon types. Like the assault rifle, it's not one that you want to hold down forever. If you hold down an M16 trigger in your real life, it's probably going to end up pointing straight at the sky. But if you hold it down in small bursts, if you pull the trigger in just piece at a time, then you will have a much better chance of being successful and accurate. So you can see my health is extremely low here. I'm slowly working on letting it recharge at least up to that full bar. And then once that thing's full, I'll probably have to use a med kit just to be safe for the next section. And another thing, so you guys know, the missions all scale, for one, on difficulty. It's going to match your level that you're on. So if you're level 3, 4, 12, whatever it is, if you do hard mode, the enemies are going to be that level. So armored enemies at your level, they're going to do a pretty good amount of damage. So just make sure you're aware of that. But the other thing it does is when you have multiple people in your party, you're going to have more enemies to fight. So if it's just me like this on solo, I've got 3 or 4 enemies coming out, and it takes me a little while to take them out. But if you've got 4 people in your group, you're going to have somewhere in the realm of like maybe 10 enemies or something like that. So it scales a lot depending on how many people are in your party. Now, I'm at full health, so I'm trying to conserve my ammo here. I've also got these melee guys coming to us. So, again, using the pistol, you do have infinite ammo with that, so don't forget about that if you're ever in a pinch. But again, there's that cover running, so you guys can see the difference in that. But the pistol is actually fairly useful. I'm sure later on we're going to have some pretty powerful ones. And as you have infinite ammo, if you're just trying to, conserve ammo, guys are hiding, you're trying to get those, head peek shots and things like that, it's not a bad idea to just use your pistol for a little bit, or if you've got a sniper rifle later on, that's usually what I like to use. But early on, you're kind of conserving that machine gun ammo for when you really need to use it. And another thing to notice is just look around you for what you're dealing with regards to cover. See this dumpster here in this wall I'm hiding behind? Well, I was looking to the left. Well, now if I jump up here and hide behind these sandbags, I've got a completely different view of the battlefield, and I've got a better shot at actually getting a good angle on them without being tagged. Otherwise, I'm going to have to run up between cover. But if you can get the high ground, try and look for that. Now, just know, if you're up high and your sides are exposed and potentially you've got enemies in kind of a 180 around you, they can shoot up on you. Like if there were guys down to my right through this fence area, for example, they would be able to hit me up here. But the guys in front of me are going to be having a harder time just because I am tucked pretty well behind this cover. So I'm trying to do a fair amount of this with my pistol just to show you guys they're still fairly effective, and you can just make sure and save your ammo if you need to. Between most kind of mission segments, they're broken up into certain areas. You'll have restock crates, so you will be able to get ammo from that. You won't get med kits, so again, be careful. Use those sparingly, especially in the beginning. But ammo is something, just wanted to show you guys, just the ability to use the pistol, even at this range. It's pretty kind of ridiculous that I'm probably not doing max damage because I'm farther away. but you can use it. It's useful. Just get used to shooting it, and you never know when you're going to put a full clip into a guy. He's going to be almost low health, and if you double tap that triangle button to switch weapons, I'm using PlayStation again. If you switch weapons, pull out your pistol, it's just your quickest way to get some damage into him to finish him off, especially if you're like trading damage with a guy and it's just the last thing you need to do. Now what I'm trying to do is get to the things on my map that are stashes and loot and things like that. So just make sure you look around on your map. Your radar is going to kind of point them out. Now it's not always perfect, but usually if you can't see what you're trying to get to, it's on a different floor. So just know that, potentially that stuff's going to be outside. Maybe we'll get up to the roof. Maybe there's somehow a way to jump up there. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. Just make sure you guys are looking at your radar. So here's kind of the idea where I show you guys where you want that first engagement. One thing to do is make sure you pulse. If you've got that, shoot your grenades first, throw your turret out to pull distraction. All those types of things, once you get those abilities, will be helpful. But right now, you can hang back here and do what I'm doing. You can I'm going to throw a flashbang grenade just to try and throw them off. But they're going to hang out there until you actually do something to aggravate them and pretty much tell them that you're here. But for right now, you can listen to them chat. Usually they'll say something, interesting commentary, or you can just start unloading on one of the guys, which that's what I did. So again, watch out for the melee guys. This one will charge up on you. And then here's that situation where you pull out the pistol. It's the only thing I had left, just because I was trying to go between reloading and trying not to die because he was so close. Pull out that pistol. It's not going to be a bad way to take out some of these guys. Headshots in this game definitely do make a difference. It is an RPG, so you're not going to get like a one-hit kill from pretty much any headshot on a guy unless you're just ridiculously over-leveled and maybe using a sniper rifle, which I've done to some point, but it's an RPG, so again, these guys just have health just like you do, so it's just going to be a little longer time to kill game. So pay attention to that. Nothing's going to be an instant. But move around, find cover. As I'm in this room, if there was like a window over on the right and I could move over there, they're going to potentially be focused on this doorway where I'm at. They're usually focused on the last place they know they saw you. Now, if you jump between cover and they see you, they're obviously going to shift their attention over to where you are. But if you can move cover, switch between something, or maybe, throw out a distraction, especially like a turret, and use that as a way to move around, they'll be focused on where you used to be, not where you are at the current point. So again, you can get that drop on them, get a little bit of damage, and go ahead. As some of these guys will drop gear, make sure you jump into your inventory screen and equip it as you're running through the mission. It's just extremely helpful to always make sure you're as geared as possible. Later on, you're probably going to have a decent set of gear, and the gear that you get is probably not going to be instantly beneficial, but especially at this level, most things you pick up are going to be helpful. So here you can see me just using this cover running mechanic, switching between covers. There's a few guys up in this room, they're talking, and I'm just trying to stay out of their line of sight. So there's my pulse. You can actually see how many enemies are ahead. It's a nice thing, just because it will pulse through walls. You can see how many guys are going to be in the encounter up front, and you can kind of plan your attack. So as I'm doing here, potentially their backs are faced to me, so I get the drop on them. I can take one of them out and then make sure you can put some damage into them as well. One thing I will tell you guys, make sure you explore a lot. There are many things in this game that are not completely obvious on your radar if you don't explore a little bit first. So you have to get somewhat close to things for them to show up. Like over here, if I didn't check behind the jail cells and just followed where the mission told me to go, I would have missed out on medkit. Extremely helpful as you're running by yourself early on. Another thing you'll come across is stashes. You'll come across restocks. You'll see that type of stash down there on the ground is actually one that's going to give me an item. The smaller ones that are usually more cloth-based and kind of look like just a little satchel on the ground or a small canvas bag, those are going to be ones that are going to give you things like candy bars for small buffs for a second. But the ones you want to notice, you'll learn to know the icons on the map. The ones that look like bullets, those are going to be restocks. The ones that look kind of like a little backpack, and this is a stash that I was talking about. It's this little like canvas bag that you'll pretty much open up. And sometimes it's a little finicky if you're not straight in front of it, depending on how the item's placed. But these are things that'll give you either extra ammo, maybe another grenade, a med kit sometimes, just a different variety of things, so check for those as well. And then the final one I told you was the other item that's actually looks like a backpack on the screen. It's like a little purple backpack icon. That's going to actually have an item in it. So once you clear out those two guys, you'll come up here to this next floor and check out in here. You'll have a couple stashes to collect, and you can just check out the environment. See in the filing cabinet, you'll find something. Now, if you pick something up and it's got that little white beam on the ground, just be aware that that means whatever that thing dropped, you are full on. Usually it will say it if you actually run back up to it, but at the time being, I just wasn't looking straight down to see that. But if you see that little white beam on the ground, either if you use whatever that was, you can potentially pick it back up, or if you haven't used it, then you can go ahead and leave it there on the ground, and if you come back and you can get to it, then there you go. So you can see I picked up one soda. Whatever that came out of the fridge, I was full on, which could have been water or something like that. So as you come up here, we're going to sweep the upper floors with the JTF guys. And again, make sure you plan your situation in advance. If you've got pulse, especially early on, it's a nice one to have. The grenade's okay. The riot shield's okay. The pulse, if you're running as a group, make sure one of you guys have that just so you know where the enemies are at. Kind of plan your attack in the direction you're going to come from. So this JTF guy's just standing around, not in cover, just because I haven't engaged the enemies yet. So there are a few imperfections in the AI, but that's just one of those things where they don't consider those as instant threats just because the game AI is looking for you as opposed to an NPC character. So I took one of them out because I got the jump on him, trying to throw a grenade. The way you throw grenades, make sure you hit left on the D-pad. It's going to bring out that arc so you can see where the grenade is going to land. And if there's red icons by it, you can see who it's going to damage. If it's a group, if you can get in the middle of them, you'll either get them to scatter, which is sometimes good if you're trying to get them out from behind cover and do damage to them. Or if they stay there and they get stunned, then you can do damage to them with the grenade as well. So I've got this one guy left roaming around. He's going to hide behind these computers. Now that's one thing you can do depending on what type of gun you're using and kind of how you attack at them. If you fire a lot of bullets in an enemy's general direction, they will have a debuff that they're suppressed. Now depending on how long they're suppressed and the effect of it is how long they will actually stay behind cover. But when they are suppressed, they will not come out. So if you are wanting to fire and maybe keep somebody hold down tight, something like that, you can have that effect useful to keep, some enemy, stuck where you want them. Now here I'm getting kind of rushed by guys. My JTF guys apparently have dropped, so they're not helping me as much. Also, if they're down, there's only so much you can do. But make sure you kind of have an exit strategy in each situation. If these guys are coming and this one runs to the left, make sure I've got room out to the right. Again, those melee guys, make sure you focus on them first, just because they're going to be rushing you until you can at least get some separation. And then here I'm just taking my time to get my health back up. But as you can see, that JTF guy kind of pushed me to the side. Little glitch as I went back through him. But definitely the collision detection in this game is on, but almost to an extreme extent. So make sure you're aware of that. Check these rooms. Look for stashes. Look at the environment. Just even every computer has something on it. The TV's got something on it. There's a lot in this game that they didn't leave out. They put so much detail into the worlds. The missions have a lot of extreme detail. Filing cabinets there. And again, I found incendiary bullets. Those are good because they will set your bullets on and your target on fire. So big benefit there. And then here's a little filing cabinet. This one's going to give me something on the ground. Again, either a potential grenade or a soda, energy bar, or something like that. Those are things that you can give to civilians when you encounter them out in the world. They'll give you a little bit of an experience buff if you give them either a med kit, water, energy bar, whatever they need. If you've got it, you give them an energy buff, and typically they'll drop a cosmetic item. And as I said, between each one of the missions, you'll see those restock crates. So look for those. Make sure you restock. And you can also, you can't use them like continually. You can't go up, fire 3 bullets and come back down. But if you fire like waves of enemies and that restock crate's pretty close by and you run out of ammo, come back down in there if you know it's pretty close and check and see if it's available. That way you can go ahead and use that. Now here, the JTF guys have kind of aggravated them, so they've already aggroed them. So they're already aware of our presence. So I don't quite get the drop on them. But this is an idea I haven't showed you guys as well yet either. If you're behind cover and you just hold down the trigger, you can blind fire over, and it's not the most accurate in the world, but if there's a guy running up close, especially a melee guy, for example, if he's running like straight down the side, if you blind fire at him, he's going to be fairly close, and his body's usually going to be big enough that he's going to occupy the space you need to take a good amount of damage. So don't forget about that for the melee guys as they're running. You won't take too much damage if you're blind firing. They may try and shoot your hands, so just be aware of you can still take some damage when blind firing. It's not like you're completely immune. And then, of course, those grenade tosses are fairly accurate. You can see my health, though. I'm just above that second bar, so I'm going to wait back in here until I get that regen effect to start going so I can get my health back up to at least 2 bars. And these 2 purple guys, just trying to get some damage on them from a distance, get my health back slowly. And as he's exposed right now, then you'll notice he's a little easier to tag as opposed to in cover. I'm trying to shoot like the side of his head. One thing you can do to try and get them to peek out, if you're holding your sights on a guy, typically they will hold down their position pretty well. One thing to point out as well, I'll get back to the aiming at them in a second. When you see enemies that are about to throw grenades, usually it'll kind of have a little clock above their head, and you'll be able to see that they're getting ready to throw a grenade. If you shoot them in the middle of that kind of grenade throw mechanic that they have, you will actually stagger them to a point that they will drop the grenade at their feet, and then you'll be able to basically stun them, they'll drop the grenade on their feet, and that actually will hurt them. So it's just one of those things to be aware. Just like that, you can see that grenade was intended for us, but I shot him while he was in the middle of trying to throw it at us, so the effect is actually on them. It works really well if they're going to throw an incendiary grenade, catches them on fire, a disorientating like smoke grenade or tear gas, that one's going to be at their feet, and then they're going to be a sitting duck as they're disoriented, so then you can take them out. And now we've got the named enemies. These are rare elites. They usually have better weapons, but they can also drop some of the best loot. So be aware when one of those comes out, they're going to have a lot more armor. They're going to be named, but they're going to do a lot of damage to you. So play these encounters extremely carefully. You can use grenades on them. They're still going to work, but some things are not going to be quite as effective. You're likely not going to suppress an elite. So just know that. Even if with a turret's firing at them or something like that, they may hide behind cover, but you're not going to get that suppress debuff, so don't think you can run straight up on them. So as you can see, he's not really affected as much by the grenade, but he is just, the effects take less effect on them. I know that kind of is a little redundant. But as you have any disorientating effects or burn effects, they just don't do as much damage. 1, the guys have a lot of armor, and then 2, they're just a lot more powerful, and they're just meant to be more difficult, more resilient guys that you're fighting. So I use my last med kit there, trying to take this enemy out. I've got the grenade on me, and the boss is pretty much pushing up at this point, so I'm in trouble. I'm trying to blind fire at him to get him to stop coming at me, to get back behind cover. I'm really in trouble at this point. So I've got to hang back here. Make sure you notice the cover you're hiding behind too. There's different heights to cover, like the boxes next to me and then some of the crates. You can hide behind certain things, but some may not all cover is the same. The green box I'm hiding behind, as you can see, he just does a lot of damage. But the green box I'm hiding behind there was taller than my head. Some of the boxes will maybe just a hair shorter, and they can get those headshots from a distance. So be aware of the type of cover that you're dealing with, and then that way you can basically take them out quicker. Because if you're peeking your head up and you're taking damage, you're taking a longer time to engage them because you're waiting for your health to come back. If you've got that full cover, you can regen quicker, and you can also make sure you know when you duck, you're not going to take damage. So it's just a safety type thing of being aware which type of cover you have and that type of stuff. So here I wanted to come back down. If you do start a mission and die like I did, make sure you check these restock crates. You can come back down here, get a full stock of ammo, and come back up and then engage the fight. And these guys have already been engaged because the JTF officers were running around. So just know, if you're the first one to walk out here and you're on a mission by yourself without any help, you can kind of choose the point when you are going to aggro the enemies. But if you're not by yourself, then just know that the AI can definitely do that as well. So I was trying to pick better cover back here, having some issues taking some bullets on this one. Just wanted to show you guys the struggles early on in this one. I'll probably cut out my deaths and parts where I'm not successful on later videos. I just wanted to show you guys these missions are hard. This is early on, taking some damage. These guys are not a gimme. So just be aware if you're having struggles. Don't worry, we all did early on. Believe me, there's many of these missions that are quite difficult, so just so you guys know what to expect. You're probably not going to be completely successful every time, so just know what you're getting into and just take your time. As I'm trying to pick him off as he's hiding behind cover, I've actually got a good spot on him where I can tag his head. So just a couple pulses at a time with my machine gun, and the burst fire is going to be a lot more accurate than holding it down. But stay back here, wait for this disorienting effect to go away. And then you can see right there, I tagged him again with that grenade. So he's stuck in it. He's got that effect. You'll see that orange box, and it's got whatever type of effect it is, be it bleed, disorientation, tear gas, whatever that effect is, you'll see how long that's going to last. Now, if they stand in it and they can kind of wiggle out of the way slowly, then of course they're going to lose that effect a little sooner. But if they stay in it, which sometimes they will, you'll just have a longer time to get free fire at them. That's kind of that timing to show you guys on the restock crate. Took out some guys, did some damage, and came back down there and got some restock. Now up here, there's going to be another wave of guys. There's usually going to be waves of enemies at most encounters, so make sure you guys are aware of that. If you take down one enemy, see, there's a nice situation where I caught him in a grenade and I smoked him. So he's over there having some struggles. I'm trying to reload, make sure my health is up, and as that disorientating effect is actually going to finally fall off of him, then he's going to get back into the fight. But here's that blind fire. When they're close by, you can do a lot of damage blind fire. So just be aware of that. If you're in a sticky situation, you don't want to peek your head out because there's a lot going on, but there's a guy pressing up on you. Try that blind fire. You're either going to do it straight above, depending on the cover, or if you're on the side, you're actually going to peek the blind fire out to the side, which is almost even better, just because it's harder for them to hit you when you're lower. So there again, you can see just that red area of effect of the grenade. Make sure you guys are jumping out of the way as quick as you can. Try and find cover as you take in each situation. Try and look where you're going to jump back to if that does actually happen. And then finally, you'll see here, I came back down for the elite guy down to the lowest level, just because I want to have some distance between me and him. I'm also using grenades just because that's one of those ways you can get damage on those guys, lower their health, and it helps drop his armor. So that grenade was able to take his health down, his armor way down, just because that grenade was extremely effective at this level. And you can take their armor down, and once the armor's down on the elites, they go down pretty quick like the rest of them. But that guy did chunk a grenade. He's running at me, just trying to unload my machine gun, and that last bullet in the clip, I think, because I switched to my sidearm there in case, but that last bullet in the clip took him out. At this level, greens are going to be good because you've got whites, which are basically basic items. They're just the lowest level. Then you've got greens, which are uncommon. You've got blues, which are specialized in this game. You've got purple, which are superior. And then you've got the yellow, which are high end. Another thing you'll notice once you finish a mission, there's usually, I won't say all the time, but usually you'll find a way out of missions that's usually going to be a rope to rappel. Some of the missions have a lot of climbing and ascending a building or a structure to them, so just know there's usually some quick way out, be it an elevator from below ground, a rope from the top down. You usually don't have to run all the way back out of a mission. It's kind of nice. They give you an exit strategy to it, so that helps quite a bit. But that pretty much wraps up the video, guys. Hope that was helpful for you guys. Give me a like and subscribe down below, and I'll get the next videos out soon.